The rain didn't just fall that night. It clawed at the world, tearing through the California sky like it had a personal vendetta against me. I gripped the steering wheel of my beat-up Honda Civic, the wipers screeching in a losing battle against the downpour. My knuckles were white, my heart a jackhammer in my chest, and every mile felt like a gamble with my daughter's life. In the back seat, Lily's ragged breaths cut through the hum of the engine, each one a knife twisting deeper into my gut. She was 6, too small for the weight of the world, and right now, her world was collapsing. An allergic reaction, peanuts of all things, from a cookie at a neighbor's barbecue. Had her throat closing, her cheeks flushed a terrifying red. I'd checked her EpiPen twice before we left, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The dashboard clock glowed 9:12 p.m., mocking me with every second that ticked by. We should have been home, curled up with her favorite book, The Velveteen Rabbit, not racing toward St. Mary's Hospital on a road that felt like it was trying to swallow us whole. Seconds later, I glanced in the rearview mirror, my eyes catching Lily's. Hers were wide, glassy, filled with a fear that no child should know. "It's okay, baby," I whispered, my voice cracking despite my effort to keep it steady. "Mommy's got you. We're almost there." The lie tasted bitter. We were still 15 minutes out, and the storm wasn't letting up. The road stretched ahead, a slick black ribbon under the streetlights, each one flickering like it might give up any second. My learner's permit sat heavy in my wallet, a guilty secret I hadn't meant to test tonight. I wasn't supposed to drive alone, not legally, but what choice did I have? James, my husband, was halfway across the state on a training op with his SEAL team. I'd called him, left a voicemail that was more sob than words, but he hadn't answered. No one had. Not my sister-in-law, Vanessa, with her fake smile and colder heart. Not Claire, who called herself my friend but always seemed to be waiting for me to fail. It's me, Lily, and this godforsaken storm. The tires hissed through puddles, the car hydroplaning for a heart-stopping second before I corrected it. My scarf, a soft blue thing James had given me before his last deployment, was knotted around my wrist like a talisman. "You're stronger than you think, Em," he'd said, his voice low and steady, the kind that made you believe him. I clung to that now, folding the scarf in my mind like a prayer, trying to summon the strength he saw in me, but every whimper from the back seat chipped away at it. Lily's hand clutched her stuffed bunny, her small fingers trembling. "Mommy," she rasped, her voice barely a whisper. "It hurts." "I know, sweet girl. Hold on." My throat burned, tears threatening to spill, but I wouldn't let them. Not yet. Not when she needed me to be her rock. I pushed the gas harder, the engine whining in protest. The hospital was close now, maybe 10 minutes if the road stayed clear. But nothing stays clear in a storm like this. Then I saw them. Red and blue lights slicing through the rain, sharp as a blade. My stomach dropped. A police cruiser, parked just off the shoulder, its lights spinning like a warning. I wanted to floor it, to keep driving, to scream that my daughter was dying and no one could stop me. But I couldn't outrun a cop, not with Lily in the back, not with my permit screaming guilty from my wallet. I eased off the gas, my hands shaking as I pulled over, the gravel crunching under the tires like bone. The car rocked as I shifted into park, my breath coming in shallow bursts. I turned to Lily, forcing a smile that felt like a lie. "Just a quick stop, baby. It's okay." It wasn't okay. Nothing about this was okay. The flashlight beam hit my window like a spotlight, cutting through the dark and rain. I rolled it down halfway, the cold water dripping onto my arms, soaking through my sleeve. The officer's face was shadowed, but his voice was flat, bored, like I was just another problem keeping him from a warm bed. "Where's your licensed driver?" he asked, his eyes flicking to the back seat, lingering on Lily for a moment before snapping back to me. "She's having an allergic reaction." I said, my voice trembling despite my effort to keep it steady. I need to get her to the ER. Please. She's only 6. I pointed to Lily, her small body curled in the car seat, her bunny clutched tight. Her breaths were shallow, too shallow, and every second felt like it was stealing her from me. The officer, Carter, his name tag red, leaned back, shining his light into the back seat. Lily flinched, her eyes squeezing shut against the glare. "Everyone's got an emergency," he said, his lips curling into a smirk that made my blood boil. "License and registration." I fumbled for my wallet, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. The permit felt like a confession as I handed it over, my fingers brushing his cold ones. He glanced at it, his smirk deepening. "Provisional. You know you can't drive alone with this." "I had no choice," I said, my voice breaking. "She's dying. Please just let me go." "Step out of the vehicle," he said, unclipping his handcuffs with a flick that sounded too practiced, too routine. My heart stopped. I looked back at Lily, her small hand pressed against the window, her eyes wide with terror. "Mommy," she whispered, and that one word cut deeper than the rain soaking through my clothes. I opened the door, the scarf slipping from my wrist and landing in the mud. I didn't pick it up. I couldn't. The cold steel of the cuffs snapped around my wrists, heavy and humiliating, the metal biting into my skin. The rain poured down my face, mixing with tears I refused to let fall. I locked eyes with Lily through the blurred window, her small face a beacon in the storm. "I will not let them take you from me," I thought. The words a vow I didn't dare say aloud. Carter's grip on my arm was rough, pulling me toward his cruiser like I was some street criminal. The gravel slid under my sneakers, slick with mud, but I forced my legs to hold steady. Lily's hand slapped the window, her sobs a sharp echo that reached deeper than the cold. "I need to get her help," I said, my voice low but clear, hoping there was still a human under that badge. He didn't slow, didn't look at me. The rain pounded harder, drumming against the cruiser's roof as he opened the back door. "Watch your head," he muttered, pushing me down. The plastic seat was cold, the rain soaking through my jeans, but I leaned forward, twisting to see Lily. Her mouth opened and closed, searching for words she couldn't find. "Baby, it's going to be okay," I shouted, my voice breaking through the storm's roar. "Stay quiet," Carter snapped, slamming the door. The sound vibrated through me, a cage locking around my heart. I pressed my forehead against the divider, whispering, "Please, God, let her be okay." Then it happened, too fast, too surreal. Carter yanked me out into the rain again, the cuffs digging deeper as he spun me around. His hand moved to his holster, quick and practiced. "Don't move," he barked. My eyes widened as I reached for my jacket, where Lily's spare EpiPen was tucked. It was the only thing that could keep her breathing, the only thing that mattered. "It's for my daughter," I started, but the words died when I saw the gun. The barrel was dark, steady, pointed at my forehead. The world went silent, the rain falling somewhere else, somewhere that didn't matter. All I could hear was my shaky breath and Lily's muffled sobs, louder than the storm, louder than everything. "Please," I whispered, raising my hands, the rain dripping from my sleeves. The scarf, half stuck in my pocket, dangled like a lifeline I couldn't reach. Lily's face pressed against the window, her hands pounding, her mouth screaming a word I couldn't hear but felt in my bones. My knees buckled, the cold seeping into me, but I refused to fall. Not here, not now. Then the guardrail groaned, a low metallic creak that cut through the rain. It was loose, swaying in the wind, inches from where I stood. If it fell, it could crush me, crush the car, crush Lily. My heart raced, but I didn't move, didn't dare with that gun in my face. Carter's eyes flicked to the guardrail, then back to me, his grip tightening on the weapon. A stray dog bolted across the road, its fur matted with rain, its eyes wild. A car swerved, tires screeching, missing it by inches. The driver honked, the sound sharp and jarring, and Carter's head snapped toward it, his gun wavering for a split second. I held my breath, praying he'd lower it, praying the dog wouldn't dart back and cause more chaos. Headlights swept across the road, not from the cruiser but from something bigger, heavier. A low rumble cut through the storm, steady and controlled, like a predator stalking its prey. Carter's smirk flickered, his shoulders tensing as the lights grew closer. I turned my head, rain sliding down my temple, and saw it. A black Jeep, its engine a quiet growl that didn't belong to the chaos around us. The door opened, the interior light flaring briefly, and James stepped out. His boots hit the asphalt with a thud, rain rolling off his Navy SEAL uniform, the ribbons on his chest glinting under the streetlights. He didn't rush, didn't need to. His presence was enough, a calm that made the storm seem small. His eyes swept the scene, Carter's drawn gun, the younger officer shifting nervously by the cruiser, and me, cuffed and soaked, Lily crying behind glass. He didn't look away, and for a moment the fear in my chest eased, replaced by a flicker of safety only he could bring. What exactly is going on here? James's voice was calm, but it wasn't a question. It was a command. Carter's jaw tightened, his gun still raised, but his eyes darted to the younger officer, who looked away, pretending to check his cruiser's mirror. "Sir, she was driving without a valid license," Carter said, his tone less certain now. "And she wasn't complying." "A sick child in the car," James cut in, his voice sharp, the kind that made men rethink their choices. His eyes flicked to me, taking in the cuffs, the mud on my jeans, the scarf limp in the puddle at my feet. I swallowed hard, Vanessa's voice echoing in my head. "You always need rescuing, Emily." But James' gaze drowned it out. He took a step forward, rain pooling around his boots. "You've made your point. Now you will uncuff my wife." Carter's lips parted, but no words came. The younger officer shifted, glancing between us, reading the warning in James's calm. Nobody moved. The only sounds were the hiss of rain and Lily's muffled cries. Then a spark flared nearby. A power line snapped by the storm, spitting electricity into a puddle just feet away. I froze, my heart lurching as the sparks danced closer, the air crackling with danger. James didn't flinch, but his eyes narrowed, assessing the new threat. He reached into his jacket, pulling out his credentials with a deliberate calm that made every movement a statement. He held them up, the badge catching the cruiser's lights. "We will sort out the paperwork," he said, his voice low. "But you will remove those cuffs now." My breath hitched, the cold biting my raw wrists. Lily's small hand tapped the window, her sobs quieter but no less desperate. Carter's face was a mask, his eyes weighing James's uniform against his own arrogance. His hand moved to his belt, fingers brushing the keys. For a moment, I thought he'd push back, turn this into something uglier, but then, with a click that echoed through the rain, the cuffs fell, clanging against the wet asphalt. My arms dropped, the rush of blood painful in my hands. I swayed, the guardrail creaking again, threatening to give way. James's arm was around me before I could fall, his strength grounding me, the scent of rain and cedar on his uniform pulling me back from the edge. "Emily," he murmured, his voice low, just for me. "We need to get her to the hospital, now." I nodded, tears brimming but not falling, not yet. I glanced at Lily, her tear-streaked face pressed against the glass, and felt resolve harden in my chest. This wasn't over. Not the storm, not the fight, not the weight of what came next. But with James beside me, I could face it. We moved to the Jeep, James guiding me as the rain washed over us, the cruiser's lights fading behind. The power line sparked again, a reminder of how close we'd come to disaster. Lily's whimpers grew softer as James lifted her gently from the car, her bunny clutched tight. We sped toward the hospital, the road a blur of wet asphalt and flickering lights, every second a battle against time. The hospital loomed ahead, its neon sign a beacon through the streaked windshield. James was out before the Jeep stopped, moving with the precision of a man who'd faced worse than this and come out standing. He carried Lily inside, her small hands reaching for me as I followed, my sneakers slipping on the wet concrete. The ER smelled of antiseptic and damp clothes, the fluorescent lights harsh against my rain-soaked skin. Nurses swarmed, their voices clipped and urgent. How long has she been like this? Any known allergies? I answered as best I could, my lips trembling, words sticking in my throat. They took Lily from James's arms, her small voice calling for me as they wheeled her away. "Wait here," a nurse said, her tone firm but not unkind. That word, wait, felt like a sentence. I leaned against the wall, my breath uneven, the marks on my wrists red and raw under the lights. My phone buzzed, Vanessa's name glaring on the screen. I didn't want to answer, but I knew she'd keep calling, keep pushing, keep tearing me down. "Hello?" I said, my voice raw. "Do you realize what you've done?" Vanessa's voice was ice, each word a blade. "The neighbors are talking. The HOA is blowing up my phone. You've embarrassed us all." "Vanessa, I had to," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Lily was—" "You always have to Emily," she snapped. "You always need rescuing. Do you think you're the only one with problems? You couldn't just call an ambulance like a normal person?" I gripped the phone, my knuckles aching. "Vanessa, please." The line went dead, her words lingering like poison. I slid down the wall, the cold tile biting through my jeans. My phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up the screen. A blurry photo loaded slowly over the hospital's weak Wi-Fi. Me in the rain, cuffed, Carter's smug face in the background, the red and blue lights flaring. The caption was a gut punch. "Irresponsible mother arrested outside our community. Why didn't she call for help?" I scrolled, each comment a fresh wound. Drama queen, some people live for attention. Child endangerment, anyone? A neighbor I barely knew added, "Always chaos with her kind." My chest tightened, shame burning hotter than the cold. I wanted to scream that I was saving my daughter, that I'd do it again, cuffs and all. But the words stayed stuck, trapped behind the weight of their judgment. James walked toward me, his boots tracking water across the floor, his face unreadable but his eyes heavy. "You need to see this," he said, holding out his phone. My heart pounded as I took it, swallowing the fear rising in my throat. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it," he said, his voice steady, but the tension in his jaw betrayed him. I looked at the screen, my thumb hovering over another post, another photo, another stranger's opinion cutting into me. The hospital's sterile air pressed against my skin, the hum of lights too loud, the weight of the night too heavy. But I wasn't done. Not with Lily, not with this fight, not with the world that wanted to break me. I gripped the scarf in my pocket, its damp fabric a reminder of what I'd already survived. This was just the beginning. The hospital hallway stretched before me, a sterile tunnel of fluorescent light and antiseptic air that seemed to press against my chest, making every breath a battle. I sat on the cold tile floor, James's phone heavy in my hand, the screen glowing with another cruel post about my arrest. Irresponsible mother, reckless, a danger to her child. The words burned, each one a barb sinking deeper into the raw wound of the night. My wrists still ached from the cuffs, the red marks a stark reminder of Officer Carter's cold steel and colder smirk. But it was Lily's face, her small, tear-streaked face pressed against the car window in the rain that kept me anchored, kept me from crumbling under the weight of their judgment. She was behind those heavy ER doors now, hooked to monitors, her tiny body fighting to breathe. I wanted to be with her, to hold her hand, to whisper that Mommy was here. Instead, I was here, drowning in the digital venom of strangers who didn't know a damned thing about what I'd done to save her. My phone buzzed again, Venna's name pulsing like a warning. I stared at it, my thumb hovering, knowing that answering would only bring more of her poison. But ignoring her wasn't an option. She'd keep calling, keep pushing, keep carving away at me until I broke. I pressed answer, my voice barely a whisper. "Hello? Do you realize the position you've put us in?" Vanessa's voice was sharp, each syllable a blade honed by years of resentment. "The HOA is up in arms, Emily. The neighbors are sharing videos of you in handcuffs, making us all look like fools. Sponsors are calling me, questioning our family's reputation, all because you couldn't keep your mess contained." I closed my eyes, the hum of the hospital lights filling the silence between us. "Vanessa, Lily needed help. I didn't have a choice." "You always say that," she snapped, her words like a whip. "You always need rescuing. Do you think you're the only one with problems? You could have called an ambulance like a normal person, but no, you had to play the hero and get arrested. Do you know what that does to us? To me?" I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white, searching for words that wouldn't come. A security guard passed by, his glance lingering just long enough to make me feel smaller. "Vanessa, please," I started, but she cut me off. "People are watching, Emily. They're talking. Do you ever think about how that affects the rest of us? Or is it always about your crisis?" Her voice dropped, cold and final. "Maybe it's time you find somewhere else to live. Don't expect us to keep covering for you." The line went dead, her words echoing in the sterile hallway like a gunshot. I lowered the phone, my reflection staring back from the dark screen. Hair tangled, eyes red, a woman who looked like she'd been dragged through a storm. And I had. Not just the rain outside, but the storm of judgment, of doubt, of a community that had already decided who I was. My phone buzzed again, a notification lighting up. I tapped it, and my heart sank. A blurry photo of me in the rain, cuffed, Carter's smug face in the background, the cruiser's lights flaring red and blue. The caption was worse than the photo. "Some people think chaos is everyone else's problem." It was Claire's post, her name glaring above it, the woman who'd smiled at me over coffee last week, now twisting the knife. The comments piled up, each one a fresh cut. "Attention seeker. She's always been a mess. Why didn't she just call 911 and 11? I wanted to scream, to type a response that would silence them all, to tell them I'd do it again if it meant saving Lily. But my fingers froze, the shame too thick, too heavy. I slid further down the wall, the tile cold against my back, and clutched the blue scarf in my pocket. It was damp, stained from the mud, but it was mine. A piece of James, a piece of the strength he believed I had. I pressed it to my lips, breathing in the faint scent of cedar, trying to ground myself in something real. The automatic doors whooshed open, pulling me back. James walked toward me, his boots leaving wet tracks on the floor, his face unreadable but his eyes dark with something I couldn't name. "You need to see what's happening," he said, his voice steady but laced with tension. He held out his phone, and I took it, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Another post, another photo, another stranger's judgment. "Irresponsible mother arrested outside our gated community. Why drag her kid into this?" The comments were relentless, neighbors I barely knew piling on, their words like stones thrown from the safety of their perfect lives. I handed the phone back, my hands trembling. "Whatever it is, we'll handle it. James said, his jaw tight, his eyes searching mine. I nodded, but the weight of it all, the cuffs, the gun, the posts, Vanessa's voice, felt like it might crush me. I stood, the scarf still in my hand, and walked outside, needing air, needing space. The dawn was breaking, a thin line of gray slicing through the sky. The hospital awning dripped with the last of the rain, each drop a slow, heavy beat on the concrete. I whispered to myself, I can't keep letting them define me. The words felt fragile, but they were mine. James followed, his presence a quiet anchor. It's time to stop letting them decide who you are, he said, his voice low but firm, echoing my thoughts. I turned to face him, lifting my chin, feeling a spark of something I hadn't felt in years. Defiance, maybe, or the beginning of courage. The fight wasn't over, but I was done shrinking. We walked back inside, the hospital's Hume, a distant pulse. Lily was asleep now, her small body tucked under a thin blanket, her breathing steadier. I leaned down, kissing her forehead, whispering, Mommy's got you. Her fingers curled around mine, even in sleep, grounding me in what mattered most. James stood by the door, watchful, giving me space. The nurse nodded, saying, we could take her home soon. We gathered our things in silence, the morning light cutting through the fluorescent glow, a promise of something new. Outside, tires crunched on the gravel of the pickup area. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up, its tinted window sliding down with a hiss. Vanessa stepped out, her sunglasses perched on her nose despite the gray morning, her lips pressed into a thin line. Emily, she said, my name not a greeting but a sentence. I held Lily closer, her warmth a shield against the chill in Vanessa's voice. She stepped forward, ignoring James's subtle move to block her path. You've embarrassed all of us, she said, her voice low, sharp enough to cut through the dawn air. The HOA, the neighborhood group, my sponsors, they're all questioning us now. Our standing, our image, all because you can't keep your chaos contained. James's jaw tensed, but I raised a hand, stopping him. This was mine to face. Around us, hospital staff and parents waiting for their kids paused, the air thick with tension, as Vanessa's words carried across the concrete. You think what you did was heroic, she continued, gesturing toward me like I was a stain she needed to erase. Driving without a license, getting arrested, dragging your child through your mess, and now you expect sympathy? Lily clutched my leg, her eyes wide. The fear I'd tried to shield her from now plain on her face. The shame burned, but I forced it down, letting something else rise. Resolve. I stepped closer to Vanessa, close enough to see the twitch in her eyebrow, the crack in her perfect facade. You've used my silence to keep your image clean for too long, I said, my voice calm but unyielding. You've told your version of who I am because I let you. That ends now. A ripple went through the small crowd, whispers starting, eyes shifting. Vanessa scoffed, adjusting her sunglasses, but they slipped slightly, betraying her. Don't make this about you being brave, Emily. You've always been a mess, and we've always cleaned it up. No, I said, my voice steady, a wall she couldn't breach. You've never cleaned anything. You've kept things hidden. For you, for your reputation, your precious image. Her mouth opened, a retort forming, but I cut her off. Leave, Vanessa. Now. It wasn't loud, but it was final, and I saw it hit her like a physical blow. Her nostrils flared and she turned, her heels clicking as she stormed back to her car. The door slammed, the engine roared, but she paused, the window lowering just enough for her voice to reach me. This isn't over, Emily. I didn't flinch, didn't respond. I stood there, holding Lily, feeling her warmth against me as the Mercedes peeled away. James's hand found the small of my back, grounding me without a word. We stood in the parking lot, the hospital's lights humming above, the dawn breaking into a pale blue sky. I felt it then. A line drawn, a choice made. I wasn't going back. The drive home was quiet, the roads slick with dew, the coastal town waking slowly around us. Lily slept in the back, her soft snores a reminder of why I'd endured it all. James kept one hand on the wheel, the other resting on his knee, giving me space to process. At home, I carried Lily to her room, laying her gently in bed, brushing damp curls from her forehead. The marks on my wrists stung, but I kissed her cheek, whispering, "You're safe, I promise." I was turning toward the kitchen when tires skidded on the gravel outside. The front door burst open, Vanessa's perfume hitting before her voice. "I'm done cleaning up your messes, Emily." She tossed a thick envelope onto the counter, her words sharp as glass. 30 days. You and your circus are out." I looked at the envelope, then at her, keeping my face still as she crossed her arms, daring me to speak. "You think you can drag your drama all over this neighborhood, embarrass this family, and expect to keep your place here?" She spat, pacing, her heels clicking on the tile. "People are calling me, Emily. Sponsors are nervous. And when they pull out, don't think for a second you're keeping that child. I'll call CPS myself and remind them what kind of mother you are." My chest tightened, old fear crawling up, but my eyes drifted to the fridge, where Lily's crayon drawing hung. "Mommy and me" in wobbly letters. That drawing snapped something in me, something that had stayed quiet too long. I pushed off the counter, standing straighter, meeting Vanessa's glare. "You're gonna regret saying that." She laughed, cold and bitter, but a flicker in her eyes betrayed her. "You threatening me?" she asked, her voice mocking. I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled out my phone, tapping until the audio file appeared. I set it on the counter and pressed play. Vanessa's voice filled the kitchen, her own words damning her. "I don't care if the HOA money covers my trips to Napa. They owe me. Let them try to stop me." Her face drained of color and she lunged for the phone, but I was faster, snatching it back. "You recorded me," she hissed. "I did," I said, my voice even, my eyes locked on hers. "And if you ever threaten my daughter again, if you so much as mention CPS, this goes public. Every board member, every sponsor, every neighbor will hear it. You will leave us alone." Her mouth opened, but no words came. She looked smaller, her shoulders tight, her eyes darting like a trapped animal. I stepped closer, my voice low. "We're done playing by your rules. Leave." Vanessa's lips trembled, her composure cracking. She turned, storming out, the envelope still on the counter, meaningless now. The kitchen fell silent, filled only with the hum of the fridge and Lily's steady breathing down the hall. I slid the envelope into a drawer, locking it away, and watched Vanessa's car pull out, slower this time, like she knew the power had shifted. That night, I barely slept. I moved through the house, checking on Lily, her small hand clutching her blanket, her breathing soft. I washed the same mug 3 times, letting the hot water run over my hands, trying to calm the storm in my mind. Morning came with gray clouds and a cold breeze, fitting for what I was about to do. I dressed simply, tying my hair back, slipping the blue scarf into my pocket like armor. James stood by the door, his eyes steady, offering silent support. As we drove to the community center, his hand rested over mine at a stoplight, a quiet promise. Vanessa's Mercedes was already parked when we arrived. Claire stood beside her, scrolling her phone, her eyes darting up to me before looking away. They whispered, their laughter sharp, trying to hold on to a narrative slipping through their fingers. I paused outside the glass doors, pressing my thumb against the scarf, grounding myself. This was it. Inside, the room buzzed with murmurs, neighbors turning as I entered. Vanessa's lips curled into a thin smile, her voice loud enough to carry. "Oh, you came," she said, as if my presence was a favor. I nodded, keeping my voice even. I wouldn't miss it. The meeting began, chairs scraping, coffee cups clinking, a child fussing before being hushed. Vanessa took her place at the front, her posture perfect, her smile polished as she spoke about community standards and family values. Her words were daggers, slipping in jabs about certain members causing disruption, each one aimed at me. Claire nodded along, her phone glowing as she typed, no doubt spreading more poison. When Vanessa paused, letting her words hang, I stood. The chair scraped, the sound sharp in the quiet room. Heads turned, the tension thick as I stepped forward, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Before we continue," I said, my voice clear, "the community needs to hear something." I pressed play, and Vanessa's voice filled the room. "I don't care if the HOA money covers my trips to Napa. They owe me." Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. Vanessa's smile vanished, her face paling as Claire's hand flew to her mouth. A neighbor, Mrs. Larson, stood, her voice trembling but firm. "Is that true?" Vanessa stammered. "She's lying." But her voice lacked its usual bite. Neighbors pulled out their phones, some recording, some texting, the air buzzing with a truth they couldn't unhear. I met Vanessa's eyes, the scarf in my pocket grounding me. "You've taken enough from this community, from me, from my daughter. It ends today." No one moved. Then a man in the back cleared his throat. Another woman shook her head, and whispers spread like wildfire. Vanessa tried to speak, but her words caught, her face flushing as she grabbed her bag, her movements jerky. She walked out, and I stood still, letting the quiet victory wash over me. For once, their eyes didn't make me feel small. She paused at the door, her hand on the handle. Vanessa turned, her eyes narrowing, a promise of retaliation. But I was done being afraid. I stepped outside, the evening air cool against my skin, my lungs filling deeper than they had in weeks. James pulled up, and I slid into the Jeep, the road ahead clear under a sky turning deep blue. That night, I tucked Lily into bed, smoothing her hair, her small hand catching my finger. "Mommy's here," she mumbled, her drowsy smile a balm to my soul. I kissed her forehead, letting the peace root deep before turning off the light. Morning came golden, sunlight warming the kitchen floor. Lily crawled into my lap, her head under my chin, warm and safe. James moved around the kitchen, the smell of coffee and toast filling the air, his movements calm. "You did it," he said, kissing my head. I let out a breath, the truth settling in. I did. We did. The fallout rippled through the neighborhood. Vanessa's face was tight as she retrieved her mail, neighbors' eyes following her, whispers swirling. The HOA called an emergency meeting to review her misuse of funds. Claire's bright smile was gone, her neutrality forced as she avoided my gaze. I watched, not from vengeance, but from a settled place inside me. The threads Vanessa had tied around my life were snapping, one by one. I sat at the kitchen table, tracing the fading marks on my wrists, the bruises a pale yellow now. The blue scarf lay folded beside me, a reminder of what I'd endured, what I'd overcome. Outside, neighbors waved, their smiles genuine, not performative. Mrs. Larson nodded from across the street, her warmth a quiet acknowledgement. Lily woke, blinking sleep from her eyes, her smile spreading as she felt the change. "We're free now," I whispered, the words tasting like hope, like sunlight, like a new beginning I'd fought to claim.